Hello everyone and welcome back to Unity of Command. This is the campaign scenario Case Blue, Fall Blau, from the Axis campaign of the base game. July the 9th, 1942. With Army Group B in full swing along the Don, remaining Axis forces join the offensive. Soviet armies are in headlong retreat. There is not much they can do to prevent the Germans from taking the Don Band and at Rostov from kicking open the gates to the Caucasus. Okay, so at very first glance it looks like a relatively easy map. The Soviet forces barely outnumber the Axis forces, and we have a veritable shopping list of special actions, including 4 air attacks per turn, 1 logistics, to raise the range of 1 supply source each turn, a bridging action, and 2 supply drops every turn, and the Soviets only have 2 partisan actions. And this is a very easy and neat little scenario if you are aiming for a standard or normal or major victory. It's actually a pretty fun one. It's a bit quite too obvious for my taste. You immediately realize what's to be done. However, this is one of the most frustrating and simply worst scenarios when it comes to to our playlist of brilliant victory without any prestige spending, because I think that there is a developer mistake here. I refuse to believe that this is intentional, so I think that the developer dropped the ball here and made a mistake. I'll explain this immediately. So we have these 5 objectives, and this one called Tsimlyanskaya is the one that is in error, I think. Let's quickly go through these objectives one by one. So the first one to take is Milerovo. Paralyze Soviet forces by disrupting their transport and supply center, to be taken by the end of turn 2. Then we have Tsimlyanskaya, Directive 45. Cross the Don River at this location, to be taken by the end of turn 4. We'll get back to this in a moment. Then we have Rostov on turn 5. Gateway to the Caucasus. We must pry it open as soon as possible. And in the far east we have 2 further objectives. Kletskaya, to be taken by the end of turn 6. Establish a lodgement in the Don Band as a jump-off position for Stalingrad. And a bit towards the south we have Nizhnya Chirskaya. Capture this crossing point. Future advances along to the east bank. What? Capture this crossing point. Future advances along the east bank of the Don depend on it. Right. The text is a bit weird. So anyway, I refuse to believe that this is correct. So this objective here, just to the south of the Don River, would be quite a challenge to capture by the end of turn 6. It would be extremely difficult to be captured by the end of turn 5, and yet we must capture it during turn 4. And what that means is that you need to take some very specific actions in the early turns, which will disrupt all your battle plans practically. You will have to reallocate. We have to allocate significant forces here, and because it's on the other side of the river, you cannot cross the river from here. You simply don't have the time to get through here, so you have to actually arrive on the northern bank by turn 3. And the AI recognizes it and moves these 2 infantry divisions across, so you have to actually send another unit just to clear out the path for the unit that you're gonna send across to cross the river. This is ridiculous, and this is actually pretty stupid. What that means is that you will have to allocate a lot of forces for this capture, and it will make all the other captures, well, not all of them, Milerovo is not difficult, but all the other ones extremely risky and difficult, because you're going to be missing all of those units that you allocated for this capture. It also is quite weird that it's in the middle of of all these objectives. So yeah, so I really hate this map. You have to play this the way I did, at least the first scenario, precisely the way I did, and you need to get lucky. So prepare to replay the first turn over and over again if you're aiming for the same achievement. Let's take a look at the map. So the only things that are really interesting are this Miles River that we need to cross. We have seen this area 1,000 times before. So what's really weird is that most of the terrain is open, but actually your supply is going to be pretty precarious, because believe it or not, and I'll switch back to the well, maybe not. So actually there aren't many forests or swampy areas to consider. So only the rivers are interesting, and they're quickly visible from here. So let's take a quick look at our supply. First, let's start with the Soviets. They have a weird little supply source here in the north, another one in also a bit more to the west. That's off-road, and they have another one here that says range 10, but this one also goes out of the map. So the only real supply source they have is Rostov, the only one that they can reliably count on. So the moment you cut them off anywhere from from this supply source, then they're basically screwed, and then you can start mopping them up. So that means that the western front line is actually pretty vulnerable, and if you're aiming for a major victory, then what you should do is basically race to the south, try to cross the river here, and attack towards the east, have an offensive towards the east, and this whole area here should crumble, and there are a lot of Soviet units here. Afterwards, you can focus on taking Rostov, and the rest should be fairly easy to capture. They receive some reinforcements, but these forces, as we will soon take a better look at them, they're not very scary, to put it mildly, and so they're not going to put up much of a fight. So our problem, however, is our supply. We have a supply source in the south that is off-road, and that's only barely enough to keep our units in supply. We have another one in the north, so that was in the south. We have one in the extreme north, also off-road for some reason, although we do have control of the road, which is already insufficient for our foremost troops. And we have one supply source starting from Kharkov, which has a range of 8, and which you should spend your logistics special action to keep upgrading every turn. Eventually it's going to be very powerful, but the problem is that the road is really, really weird. So first of all, it's already cut off here at Izium, or just after that. So the first objective is to reconnect it, and afterwards to force a breakthrough to Rostov, thereby cutting off the Soviets, the AI, from their own supply, and enabling you to link up with the northern forces. Otherwise it's a bit tricky, even for major victory. But once you've achieved that, everything disappears, kind of evaporates from the map, at least on the western half of the map, and all your forces will be ready to just steamroll over the other objectives. Now that is how you go ahead and win a major victory without any real issues. But for a brilliant victory, you don't have the time to do that, and the forces either. So what you need to do is to push your way across here, and already on the first turn arrive with some of your fast-moving units to the northeast of the bridge. This is already very tricky. Then in the next 2 turns, rush to the Don, and send precisely 2 units, one motorized division and 1 tank unit, to force your way across. You need 2 units because the AI is going to send those 2 infantry units across, and you need one of them to clear out the path for the other. You are going to be sorely missing both these 2 units, as well as the other armored spearhead units that you are sending to achieve this objective from other front lines, because forcing the Miles crossing is extremely tricky, and you need to repair the bridge, by the way, before you can advance. So the way we are going to do it is, once we've achieved that, we're going to be constantly dipping in and out of supply. Since the range of this supply source is going to be quite high in a few turns, that means that actually our supply is going to range, once we have cleared this area, it's going to reach quite far ahead, thankfully. but we are never going to fully and safely connect up the road. There is no way to completely destroy all Soviet, or at least I don't think there is a way, if you're aiming for this victory, to completely destroy all Soviet units in this area, and thereby even the final battles are a bit tricky. We're also receiving reinforcements, quite formidable ones actually, but they're only coming from the northwest and can barely participate in any battles. They might come in handy capturing this victory hex right here, but that's about it. Alright, now let's take a look at the forces. In the north we have two depleted tank divisions, panzer divisions, which you have to immediately refill by your two airdrops that you get each turn. So we're gonna spend it on that. Later on, the airdrops will be very scarce, so you have to weigh your options, which units to resupply, refuel. But other than that, everything else is in supply except for this inconsequential Italian unit in the south. Everything else is in supply. So we have an armored spearhead in the north, and as I was saying, slowly reinforcements are trickling in, which are strong, but they arrive a bit too late for our taste. Again, for a major victory, they're perfectly fine. In the middle we have Romanian troops, which are not really good for anything, but the AI likes to drop its partisan actions in two places, either here or here, and the Italian and Romanian forces are excellent at clearing that up, and also to clear out weakened Soviet units. Now in the south we have quite a concentration of some forces. We have 4 panzer divisions and 1 motorized division, along with some decent German units. The Viking division for some reason has been demoted into a standard infantry, SS infantry unit. It has standard experience levels for whatever reason. It's not a very good unit here in this map, on this map, so it's superior to your standard infantry units, but barely. You have to be careful when using them. And as for the Soviets, a lot of them are already half out of supply, so your first turn can be... I recommend you use your first turn to clear out as many of the units as possible, because a lot of them are still quite weakened. In the north they have some tank units, which we know to be excellent, and this one, for instance, the Group Pushkin, actually even has a specialist step, an M42 artillery gun. Some of the units have experience, like this Soviet cavalry corps, and and there is, as usual, they have a few excellent specialist steps as well. In the middle they're nothing special, and in this band, which is like the most crucial part of turn 1, they are quite well entrenched with special steps, etc. So they are quite formidable. They're holding the Miles line quite firmly, and the other side of the bridge is held by this entrenched Soviet infantry unit, which is in full supply and has a T-34 attached to it, so you're not going to break it through. However, the AI tends to move it out and push a totally useless unit, a standard infantry unit in its place, which of course is not going to be entrenched, so that's your cue to start pushing. In the first turn I'm not even going to attempt to do anything here. It would just mean losing too many forces. Right. So first of all, copy my actions on turn 1, like step by step practically. Afterwards you will have to improvise depending on how your battles turned out and how the AI reacts. But basically it's going to be a constant battle against numerically superior and in some cases superior overall Soviet forces, trying to secure our supply routes as far as we can, and also trying to capture the objectives in time, which is not easy, as I've said. So let's see how it turned out. So I know exactly what to do here. We need to push. This is an excellent Soviet unit, but we need to wear it down. And the order I'm sending this unit is also, I mean, I've done this at least 10 times. I tried this map at least 10 times, and I know exactly which unit to send after which unit to get the supposedly best result. And okay, we got lucky, we destroyed it. And now before we attack across the river, this unit is relatively strong, so we send 2 of our air attacks against it. Sorry, 3. Maybe we send all 4, that's possible. No, just 3 out of the 4. And thereby we achieved a 50% chance of dislodging it, which was excellent. And now it only has suppressed steps, so this unit is inconsequential. We destroy it, and we send the tank unit here to destroy or at least weaken this Soviet unit again. And this is crucial. You have to reach, you have to propel these two units here. If they don't reach these two, literally these positions, these are the positions you need to reach, then restart the scenario. You are not going to capture otherwise this victory hex. As I said, I'm pretty sure this is an oversight. This should be at least a turn 5 or rather a turn 6 capture. This is kind of weird. But anyway, it's barely doable. So we bombed this unit because the idea is that we should reconnect the road here. There is a supply route is coming through here, which is kind of weird. So we use our somewhat depleted tank to attack it. I don't care for losses about the Romanians. From this moment on, this Romanian unit is going to be assigned to anti-partisan duty, which is not dangerous. We just need something that can move, and that's gonna fit the bill. And here in, I want to clear out the south. It didn't go as planned, unfortunately. So you can give up the front line. You can give up the front line here. It's okay. The Soviets are not going to advance across the river, and there is nothing here. Now, after that, I tried my luck against this unit, but it turned out horribly, so I didn't force the issue. Sometimes you can still cross the river here on turn 1 if you are lucky, but I don't think it's that important. So the middle sector is the crucial one. This turned out almost perfectly. So it's time to take care of the northern ones. The name of the game here is twofold. First of all, oh yeah, and you don't need to hold the front line there, so at all. Is to destroy as many Soviet units as you can, because the infantry unit will lag behind and will be out of supply, so you can only use them for the first couple of turns. And the Soviets are also a bit weakened by the map. And also, you don't want them to bunch up in front of your panzers, which can be dangerous if you want to capture the first victory axe. So don't be afraid to suffer casualties. Yes, I know this might look bad, but we're not gonna use these units for much in the future. So this is kind of fine. Actually, incidentally, we also have units that are partially out of supply for some reason. Also, there is no reason to guard this bridge. We are guarding it kind of, but there is nothing here, to be perfectly honest, so that's also fine. Yep. And propel your tanks across as far as you can, because you need to capture this victory hex the next turn, and believe me when I say that the Soviets will have some units up their sleeve. Yep, so propel both panzer divisions there. Okay, that's practically it. On the first turn of the Soviets, they are already out of supply here because we cut deep enough so that their route is a bit, so the supply path is a bit crooked. This will prompt the AI to start retreating or make less than optimal moves here, which is exactly what we want. But we don't really stand a chance here in the south, so you're going to see why that is important. Once again, if you had the time, you didn't need to send all these units to the north, and you didn't need to take unnecessary casualties. Then you can easily hold the line and just wear down the Soviet forces in a few turns, and then crush them practically anywhere you want to. Okay, the AI is sending its best units to capture the victory axis as usual, and for some reason it's cutting us off. Theoretically we are in supply until this point still, so by cutting us off here we are still fully in supply, at least apart from the northern forces, apart from our northern forces. So this is not really something scary, but it's something we have to consider in the future, that we want to recapture the supply source, or as long as we can. So the longer you hold it, the better. And yeah, it's trying to retreat. Our goal is now to connect up, because our supply runs from the west and it's getting stronger and stronger each turn. So we need that supply to help us out in the middle, or with our units coming from the north. Yep. That was again an unnecessary loss, but it's not really important. The AI is not going to cross the bridge. Even if it crosses the river, there is nothing here that we desperately need to protect, so that's also great. And yeah, and the partisans. This tank unit cannot attack, it's fully depleted. No. Alright, so on our turn 2, our supply situation is a bit crooked as well, so most of our forces in the north are out. Everything else is in full supply. As long as we can keep it that way, we'll be fine. So raise our supply range by 1 and keep on pushing. This is our objective for this turn that we need to take. As I've said, it's not really difficult. We have 4 air attacks and they're practically dedicated for this purpose. Yep, 2 are enough, I think, and yes. Now we can capture it, remove that unit, and not continue attacking at the moment. That's what I thought, but I got very lucky. So because of the overrun, we lost a few steps to suppression. But since this unit has been out of supply, you get the option to refuel them. It's interesting, the game doesn't allow you to simply refuel units that have suppressed steps, but it allows you to resupply units that have been out of supply for 1 turn, even if they're fully in supply at that moment. So that means that I can drop an air supply on it, since I don't have many units that require this, and keep on attacking, and as you can see, this turned out great. And once again, these units will lose their value relatively quickly, so it's time to use them still while we still can. And I want to connect up to see if we can use our supply from the west to to keep them useful. Yeah, and we humiliate that tank division by destroying it with our weakest unit. And once again, we need to use our best units for this purpose. So to allow this and so we sent 1 tank unit to destroy an enemy tank corps, and we sent these 2 units ahead, and that means that they will be able to reach the Dawn River the next turn. But it was extremely costly. The motorized division has not attacked, and unless I'm mistaken, it is not going to attack all throughout the scenario. So this is basically the only purpose it has, is to run and capture that Victory Axe. This is really costly and I really don't like it. Alright, the tank can move across freely and make good use of this skill, and at this moment we can rebuild the bridge, which is excellent. If we can connect up the supply, that means it will run up right until here. Our next concern is, we have 2 concerns. Of course, this Victory Axe, but I'm feeling a bit better about this. And Rostov is very strongly held, and because we needed to divert forces to the middle front line, it has to be captured by a bunch of infantry units, including auxiliary units in the area, and these 2 divisions that are of any use. So I don't feel very great about this. We also need to try to hold our supply line as best we can, at least here in the middle. Yeah, and I really think that was kind of crucial to reallocate this tank unit to the south. This is where most of the battles are going to take place, and the Soviets have some excellent units here which cannot be defeated by standard infantry units, and they can be theoretically cut off, but that's also a bit difficult. Alright, we're clearing out here, removing some of the partisans. And all I'm seeing is that my only point here is to make sure that the supply line runs at least across the river here, because if that's the case, then all of the units will be in supply, I believe. Even if we don't recapture this 1 hex, or if the Soviets cut us off again, that's kind of fine. We recapture it, but we will be probably cut off. Once again, that's okay. This is not really a crucial point. We're gonna have a lot of battles in this area. Alright, we try to clear out this final unit here. It still has the gun active, obviously, but it's much weakened now. It still survives for some reason, and I still had 1 of my air supplies left, and that was the best unit to use it on, so I did that. We spawn our newly arrived units and rush them ahead. And yeah, and here in the south, extreme south, you don't need to you really don't need to save all the units, so feel free to reorganize them into better positions. And at the Soviets' first move is they cut us off from the supply, which is kind of bad for these units, but if we can remove this unit, it's not a very strong one, then we'll be fine again. All of these units are unable to attack, they're cut off from supply, so that's fine. And overall their stature is pretty bad, so if they start out turn 2 like this, then you're fine. Our only challenge now seems to be in the south, in extreme south. And of course, yeah, their best units are still excellent. They're still in supply, so there is nothing we can directly do about them, unfortunately. And yeah, and just as I told you, the AI realizes the threat to the victory hex and moves these 2 infantry units across, which is really painful, because we cannot just rush ahead and get to the dawn. And also they cut us off here, which was very unfortunate. So this usually does not happen. I mean, we can usually protect our supply route, but this means that everything here is out of cut off. At least if we cannot clear this out better in the near future, then we might be in for a pickle. So overall, after the Soviets' turn, we're not in a great situation. But they're neither, so at the very least these units should be easy to clear out. In fact, the AI moved back here. It felt so comfortable doing that. Alright, our turn. As you can see, a lot of our units are unable to attack, including this motorized division, so that's a problem. I don't care much about the standard infantry, they're fine. The Soviets are not a threat either, so it's not like they're in any danger. If we can clear out this area better, which we probably should, then we should be fine for the next turn. So let's raise the range of our supply source again. It's now 11, so if we clear it out, it should reach well until beyond the victory hex, so that should be okay. And now it's time to just clear out as much of these units as we can. In the south, we still have the option to, continue our assault. And I prioritize the capture of Rostov to clearing out our supply from the back. And this goes relatively decently. We already could attack the city. If you don't do that, then the AI is actually gonna bunch up a lot of units in front of it. So try to reach it as fast as you can. And some of these units are pretty good, like this one. So you need to find an angle. And now it's time to clear out in the middle. As I said, this should not be a threat. We have a lot of units that are still in supply, and the AI's units are weak. Now I bomb this unit, and the idea is very simple. We need to remove one of the units, preferably both of them, but we must remove one of them from the map. And yeah, we're gonna remove actually both of them. So this is how we do it. We send the motorized division, and it will destroy both of them. Oh no, it doesn't. Whatever, but the tank can get to the bank of the river, and and that's great, because the next turn it can attack across and move across, and we are going to use our air attacks, of course, on this one. So we are right next to the victory hex. They cannot dislodge us. This unit is extremely strong, so there is nothing they can do about it. Even if this unit gets back in supply, it's pretty worthless. So I'm feeling good about this one. Now our next priority is we have to capture Rostov in 2 turns. All right, I'm trying to clear out this unit here, but for some reason it went very poorly. So I don't know how lucky that got. It's on our side of the river. We didn't attack across, but for some reason the Soviet unit decided to be heroic, and keeps deciding to be heroic. So this is a unit we need to remove if you want to have supplies across the river, which is kind of crucial. So I don't spare my units on it. And now at this moment we have supply running here, so almost everything is in full supply, which is excellent. And this is another crucial move. You don't need more tanks here. The reinforcements are also fast and strong coming from the north. So what we need is to clear out. What we need is more units here in the south to secure our supply and to assist in the assault on Rostov itself. And anyway, these units are the Soviet units are worthless. So once we destroy them, and we easily can, like this, we'll be fine. And what's really interesting here is that all of our units are out of supply, but we don't need to withdraw them because next turn they will certainly be in supply. So here in the south I try to keep this conga line so that at least most of my units I won't need to resupply manually. And we need to capture these victory hexes by the end of turn 6, so we need to advance. This unit gets a supply drop because it's an excellent unit and we can definitely use it. And the 90% chance to overrun did not work out. And this was another good move. The Soviet supplies don't reach at all, so you're going to see that in the next turn of the Soviets that even these units are in danger of running out of supply. So cutting through to the south is actually a good idea, like this. And the idea was also that this tank unit can also assist in the assault on Rostov. I know that we don't need so many units on these two victory hexes because they're relatively close, they're not well defended, and we can, as you see, we're receiving more units. We received the Großdeutschland Panzergrenadier Division, it's excellent. And yep, obviously this depleted Soviet unit won't be able to attack, so as long as we can keep it, from cutting us off, which shouldn't be a difficulty, then we're fine. I reinforced the Viking division because that's the strongest. And as for the Soviets' first turn, these 3 units are out of supply, so that's excellent. The AI really gets spooked about this one, especially as it doesn't have stand a chance to getting these hexes back into supply. But other than that, this unit is out of supply, but everything else is fine. And in the south, our situation is a bit dire, to put it mildly. I don't care about these units, they'll be back okay, and we can utilize them the next turn, weakened as they are. So let's see what the AI does. Keeps cutting us off, and just repositioning forces. This is not really scary. So in this turn, anything but the south is okay. In the south, they cut us off, which is quite bad news. All of these units will need to be resupplied, and that's going to be tricky. And we don't have enough forces there, as you can see. So yeah, the Romanians couldn't stand their ground, unsurprisingly. And yeah, so we start our turn 4 in a less than ideal scenario. These 2 tank units cannot attack, which are sorely missed in the south. And we need to resupply at least a tank unit in order to win, which is, the point of the game. So that's also not great. These units are also starting to run dry, so one of our best units here, this is a veteran Panzer division with a Stug 3 special step attachment, is out of supply, and we don't have the airdrops sufficient to restore it. So this is quite bad. On the other hand, our supply is now up to 12, so it reaches practically anywhere, even without the connection in the south. So we have won the battle in the middle, but we are not really that hot anywhere else in the south. So I resupply this unit and use my air attacks here. First one whiffs. Second one is far more successful. Third one whiffs. And the fourth one is excellent. This unit is fully depleted. This is easy pickings for the tank, and it moves across. That's it. Now we resupply the tank because we do need to keep attacking the city hex, and we finally breach it. It's okay that we suffered losses. We need to deal as much damage as we can, and we're still attacking. This unit is very weak now, and it should be destroyed, and it is. And our best tank unit, which is in full supply, moves in. Now our priority is clearing up the supply route, which is not going to be easy. Our units have also been beaten and battered, so we need to reallocate forces from the middle sector and north real quick. I know this is a very sad battle here, but once we remove the specialist step, at least this unit is much weaker, and it's out of supply. It's going to remain out of supply, so that's that. But we couldn't improve our supply situation, and because of that, I withdraw this tank to the north. so that it gets for supply. And I moved this unit here so that it's in a forest and gets some defensive bonuses. It couldn't reach back to supply, so it's in a very precarious situation. Obviously in the middle we're fine, and yeah, so we're just rushing across. Our supply situation is still great. Oops. And the Soviets have put up a thin line of defense in front of their victory hexes, which is again not very scary, but you know, it's something we need to consider. We still have 2 further turns to capture these 2 hexes, so that's fine. And I propel this unit ahead. If I really need it, we can airdrop it, supply it from the air. But once again, this situation here in the south is very sad. Otherwise, I think we're doing fine on all fronts. But this is causing us grief on all front lines, because the only supply route is this crooked one, going first towards the south and then to the north. On the other hand, we have captured the only Soviet supply source here on the map, so this is the only one that counts, as you can see. So this is excellent, at least that. And yeah, they can still deal some damage, but at least this unit, for instance, cannot no longer attack. And yeah, our poor unit there is forfeit. This is the last assault these units can do, so they should really savor the moment before they're getting crushed. There's still a bunch of them, so we don't really have the option to remove all of them from the map, which is really sad. And at the beginning of our turn, as you can see, we need to desperately resupply this tank unit. And this tank unit with our 2 airdrops, we don't have the capacity to do much about the south, unfortunately, which is really sad. We have the objective, but you know, that's not very happy still. So we're raising the range of our main supply source, and we keep trying to clear out this road, and it works out finally. Even if this unit doesn't die, it won't be able to attack the next turn. So so we have control of the road, and at this moment I believe we can control it up to like here. So still not great, but at the very least the Soviet counteroffensive has been, you know, taken care of. Not in an excellent way, I'll admit, but something is something. And the AI puts up quite a fight, which is really unfortunate. We need to move our tank unit back to destroy as much of the Soviet forces as possible, and this works out like a charm. The SS can sit here. It remained in supply because it was on the other side of the river, barely in supply, so that's excellent. It will be able to hold a 5-step SS. Will be able to. These units will be out of supply. They won't be able to attack anyway. So we resupply the 2 tanks. Unfortunately, this only got the specialist step and the 2 steps active, so it's a pretty weak unit. But we still have 1 further turn, so I'm not really scared. And yeah, we really need to rush. We need to capture this point as soon as we can. And yes, don't be afraid to sacrifice some infantry units. And we arrived at the gates of Nizhnya Chirskaya, so let's take care of it. And yeah, it worked like a charm. This tank got resupplied, so we can send it to the south and, you know, to wreak some more havoc. And finally, we got this unit. Well, actually, it's still not back in supply, but we got it back anyway to reconnect the white. And I don't know why I moved this tank. I know why I moved this across, because it could still reach, at least capture something here. This unit won't be able to attack, so our supply route is secure up until the tank, in my opinion, unless something really weird happens. The Rostov area is still bad, but and of course the east is still not secure, but what can you do? I spent the remaining air attacks here on the north, on the victory hex. As you can see, it worked out quite well, so even our weakened unit can, I mean our half depleted unit can make short work of it. And now the Großdeutschland Panzer Grenadier Division can also wreak a bit of havoc. I moved this back 1 hex, so it will get resupplied for free in the next turn, you know, without any further ado. And that's basically it. This was deliberate. If you just click here, the tank takes another route. But this way, we have reconnected the road. It's not sufficient, but again, it's something. Actually, our supply is so powerful that it reaches up until like here somewhere. But it's still not enough to to get there. Now the Soviets start receiving pretty strong reinforcements. These tank divisions are nothing to scoff at, and they have a specialist step as well. So yes, they are so strong that they actually assault us successfully, nonetheless. And yeah, they cannot retake Rostov. Obviously, they cannot attack, so that's impossible. But we're still not taking care of the situation here in the south. Alright, this is turn 6. We need to win. While I'm thinking I raised the range, it's inconsequential. We need to win this turn. And I remove this unit out of Vengeance, so this part has been secured. And as long as we can keep the road clear, I'm like 100% sure that that we can get the supply up and safe until at least actually almost all over the place, because even if we don't destroy these units, they cannot attack. So if all I do is bunch up on the road hex with all these road hexes with all these units, then they'll be safe and they'll keep the road safe. So the south has been secured, but it's too late anyway because we need to finish the map this turn. And yeah, our situation is not excellent in the east. So let's see what happens. We have 4 air attacks, and now I only send them one by one, and the first one got very successful, so I airdropped the Panzer Grenadiers and spend the rest 3 air attacks on the north. I'm pretty sure we can capture this one, so we're fine. And this one was quite lucky. We actually suppressed its special step, the KB1, along with 2 further steps. So this unit is severely weakened enough that I dare send the Panzer Grenadiers against it, and it actually gets destroyed. So at this moment I know I've won. We can easily destroy this one, capture it, and capture the northern point as well. If I played it, a bit longer, I could have secured the road in the south. These units are bogus, they're not dangerous, they're just gonna die. And I could have sent this unit to the west to clear up some more units. This is on the other side of the river, so I'm pretty sure we could have removed these units, hopefully, and then supplied a whole supply route. So on a potential turn 7, we would be fully in supply, and yes, we could have removed practically everything except for these few units in the north from the map, which are mostly green and totally worthless anyway. So that's it. Try to copy my actions in the first 2 turns, especially on turn 1. Everything step by step that I did in the middle. You need to capture this earlier than almost technically possible, and because of that, the whole game plan crumbles. I've never managed to obtain like a clean victory around Rostov. So even if I didn't get this point, this victory hex, this impossible victory hex, the Rostov area tends to be quite chaotic because you don't have enough units allocated there to easily deal with the resistance that the Soviets offer. The terrain is also a bit weird. We know this area quite well, from previous scenarios, but it's still a difficult and challenging one to take care of. Everything else is easy, and once you actually manage to clear out all this area and your supply source is powerful enough, then you can be in supply. Well, I know now we've connected the road, but you can still be in supply like until here or something, so quite far ahead, so that you can just dip in and out of supply and attack like that. So everything else is easy about this map, except for this one victory hex, and as I've mentioned, I'm pretty sure this is an oversight. I refuse to believe this is intentional. Anyway, this is how you do it. There is no way to do it more cleanly than this, I don't think, at least. This is a very, very challenging map, but for all the wrong reasons. It has fun parts, the breakthrough here and the mopping up operations are all great. So if you're stuck, use this strategy and eventually you're gonna win. And yeah, I thank you all for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.